And welcome back, everybody. I'm hoping that you managed to grab a coffee and go stretch your legs and come back. And we are going to jump right into our next session. And I'm super excited by this one. We're going to introduce you to Brian Allen from Fidelity Digital Assets, joining us today from beautiful Boston, which is wonderful. And we're going to try to sort of pull back the curtain. I'm going to try and pull back the curtain a little bit and try and get into some of the real facts and what does it really look like to build and operationalize a robust digital asset business. So we kind of want to have an insider's view here of it and sort of to hear your point of view. And I can't think of a better person to be telling and sharing it with us. So Brian, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for the kind intro, Claire, and happy to join you.
Yeah, so I think maybe can we kick off with perhaps you can introduce yourself to everybody, tell them a little bit about your role and sort of your journey with Fidelity, right?
Yep, absolutely. So right now I'm the product area leader for wallet and blockchain as part of Fidelity Digital Assets, which offers crypto custodian and trading services to a variety of investors. So my job is, roadmaps and bringing product ideas to reality across various digital asset products. So me personally, in my background, I had a decade of experience in internal audit and risk management with a heavy exposure to cybersecurity. That background hopefully sounds a little bit like crypto and digital assets, but I have to admit, I ignored Bitcoin for quite a while. It wasn't until the 2017 crypto craze that I got somewhat interested. Then in 2018, that's when there was an opportunity at Fidelity to move over into our new digital asset business. So I moved to our enterprise risk management function, covering technology risk for digital assets. That was the opportunity to join something innovative, but still inside a great company. That's a common story among new joiners in the group. And then the classic down the crypto rabbit hole experience. The more you learn about the space, the more interesting it gets. And 2 years ago, I jumped even deeper into Fidelity Digital Assets, moving to the wallet and blockchain product management team.
Yeah, I think you're well and truly in now. I think there's no no doubting that. Now I know that you've got a couple of slides just to give people a little bit of a flavor for what Fidelity Digital Assets is, right? So I think maybe let's provide the context, and then I'm going to jump into asking you a few questions after that. So I'm going to let you walk us through a little bit.
Absolutely. So this slide, this is kind of the Fidelity backstory. And Fidelity likes to experiment and innovate, both to learn and stay ahead of new products, but then also potentially have products that are ready to launch when the environment's ready and our clients demand it. So I'm not going to go through every bullet on this slide, but certainly there's a lot, and I'll give Fidelity credit for experimenting and doing some things way back in 2014, definitely before this was on my radar and probably before it was on the radar for many of us. And out of that early work, that's where that need was seen of where are the enterprise grade custodians? Where are the enterprise grade trading solutions? How could new entrants like Fidelity offer products based on this new ecosystem? And there wasn't a good place, and that's where Fidelity decided to jump in. So starting in 2018, that's when Fidelity Digital Assets became a real business with real clients. And then as you can see, since 2018, and I'm not going to go through each of these milestones along the way, and there's been a buildup of more and more product offerings after that original offering was made. It's interesting now where you see these last couple of years and these big offerings, those core digital asset custody and trading capabilities, the core cryptographic security, those are now being used by various other parts of Fidelity to offer products to pretty much every distribution channel out there.
Yeah, and you've seen both worlds, so it's. I have a question for you, because one of the things that I'm struck by quite often when I go to events or we're out and about and people ask, oh, what are you doing? What are you working with? And invariably you get this sort of picture that's presented that there's digital assets and then there's what can be referred to as traditional finance or something. And they're really presented as two very different worlds. Do you see it that way? Do you feel it that way? Or is it an extension? I'm very curious to know how you feel about the sort of, is it like are you the Mavericks in Fidelity, or?
I won't answer about where we are in Fidelity, but I think the question's it's a great question, and It's in many ways the exact same to offer digital asset or crypto services as it is to offer traditional financial services with some really big nuances. So I think the way it's the same is that the threats and risks and controls and operational excellence, they are literally the exact same for a crypto custodian and a traditional financial custodian. And the things you worry about. So you worry about cyber attacks, you worry about fraud, you worry about mistakes, you worry about insider threats. But then you get to that nuance of digital assets and just to level set on what it means to be a digital asset custodian. The assets that you own are recorded and tracked on the public blockchain. They're available to everyone. But to own or to spend those assets requires the relevant, cryptographic private keys. And that's where that extra risk comes in. If someone steals those keys, someone loses those keys or they get destroyed, someone makes a mistake while using those keys, those funds are probably gone forever, very difficult to recall that they're bearer assets. And that's where you get some really unique and advanced cryptographic solutions that are needed. So I think I'll close that out by saying I'm probably a little biased. I think as much as I say that digital asset custodian and traditional finance need the same levels of product offerings and controls, being a crypto custodian is probably a little bit harder because you need all the same core things that our major financial institutions have built up over the years with that extra risks of crypto. But you can't just, secure yourself in a walled garden and saying you've done enough. Enabling our clients to participate in the blockchain ecosystem, if they so choose, is required to offer a product that people want.
Yeah. And I think it's such an important point. And I know you've got one more slide that we can maybe take a look at, because I think can you just walk us through what are those controls that you're referring to? Just walk us through it so that people can understand just what those different layers are really telling us.
Yeah, exactly. So as this slide is trying to show, we believe very, very strongly, and I'm going to say a couple buzzwords, layers of controls, defense in depth, things like that. And that's what this slide is. It's those overlapping cybersecurity, physical security, and operation controls. And maybe this slide could have a couple puzzle pieces that were coming together of these layers that both strengthen each other, but also compensate should any one of these controls fail, because that loss potential of a bearer asset is so high. And this is where Fidelity Digital Assets, we've had the privilege of, applying Fidelity's decades of battle-tested controls, enterprise cybersecurity services, operational excellence with that advanced cryptography. So maybe 3 fun things that are core to our control and security framework, and also just fun to talk about are, first, we store every single private key that controls these access on certified hardware security modules, HSMs. Folks may not know what HSMs are, but these are, battle-tested, specialized devices certified by programs administered by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And we design our use of these HSMs, so no human can ever get a private key. So even if they steal these devices, even if they know credentials, they can never see those private keys. They can never export those private keys, even if all these other controls fail. Second big control is fully offline cold storage. Think of that like bank vault style, where the vast majority of all of our crypto under custody is fully offline. When I say fully offline, I mean that every one of these private keys has never touched a device that's been connected to any internet or intranet. Those devices had never previously been connected before they were used for this purpose. And both in creation and in storage, they're fully offline. So this is where we get our fun concept of a vault within a vault. So highly specialized physical locations that have things like electromagnetic shielding, video surveillance, 24/7 on-site security, that bank vault style security. And then the last kind of control principle would just be multi-everything. So everything I just said and beyond always needs multiple points of control and multiple points of security. So that's multiple teams designed in everything, multi-person approvals, separation of duties, multiple private keys and multiple physical locations required for a single transaction, redundancy between those sites. Believe it or not, we worry about those incredibly tail events like multi-region, catastrophic natural disasters, all that good stuff. So you could probably get the sense that I could go on for quite a bit longer.
But actually, it's really interesting, because a lot of what you're describing is actually quite familiar to me with my background but that's what, so it feels like the framework that you're working within looks very, very similar to every other part of the Fidelity business. In actual fact, the components are there. It's what you need in the box that has some special flavors in some cases, and not in every case, because some of what you're describing is redundancy, all of these things. These are things you'll find on everybody's, no matter where you are in the bank. It's just the flavor of it looks a little different for you. So you've got an and. So it kind of makes me feel that, so that's lesson one for everybody watching, is if you want to have a robust, you've got a huge advantage of experience here, right? I mean, you've got a head start because you're not building it bottom up. You've already got a very strong, robust framework. And then what you're doing is saying, what does that mean for the digital assets team? What does that mean in our case and for our assets? And that's, it sounds like that's what you're building. Is that fair? Is it fair to look at it that way?
Yep, I think you nailed it absolutely fair. I think it's a combination of a lot of the building blocks were already in place at a company like Fidelity and across the financial services industry. It's about making sure you put those building blocks and Lego pieces together in the right way, and add the right cryptographic controls and nuances of participating in a public blockchain on top of the things that the industry knows how to do quite well. In some ways, it's a combination of traditional financial services style cybersecurity controls, bank vault style physical security controls, and then national security style cryptography. And you put all those three layers together, and that's how you can become a pretty solid crypto custodian.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming as well, this is not a static. This is something that then, to maintain the robustness, this is something that you're constantly adding to. I mean, it's always been the challenge within the cybersecurity space, that it's a moving target that you're constantly updating. But I'm assuming as well that as you review new products, I'm thinking about your previous slide where you've added and your portfolio is changing quite frequently, that when you're adding and growing and expanding that portfolio, you're having to come back to this and making sure that it's still complete, making sure that it's still a complete set of controls that you have in place.
Yep, exactly right. I think it's both the staying up to date on just your normal security hygiene and making sure that foundation stays solid and continuous improvement. But then there's that security and controls and operational excellence need to be as part of the assessment for every single new product that we consider, but then also monitoring the external ecosystem. What else is going on these blockchains? What other things might our clients be doing? And that's the final piece I'll mention. A lot of this isn't just security for Fidelity's sake and protecting us. It's all about protecting Fidelity Digital Assets, but also protecting our customers while allowing our customers to, participate in whatever part of the digital asset ecosystem they so choose.
Yeah, I mean, it all boils down to the integrity of those client assets and being able to demonstrate it and being able to feel confident that it is what it is. And this is where it's interesting when it's out there and it's on not one public blockchain, but you've got multiple chains that you're interacting with, and that you're wanting to maintain an accurate view of those balances at any one point in time. So I think it's both. It sounds both exciting and I've got to say as well, it does sound very challenging. It's because it's definitely. I very much doubt that you have many dull days. That's for sure. I think there's probably constantly something to be thinking about. I have a whole bunch of questions that are coming in, so I'm just gonna take the liberty of firing them at you, and we'll see. Hopefully they're not going to challenge you too much. But I think that you're probably the best person to be answering them. But the first one, straight out the bat. Okay, this was maybe a predictable one. Let's see. The launch of the Bitcoin ETF has been a huge success for the firm. What type of investors are you seeing being onboarded at Fidelity? And I'll let you know, I don't know whether you managed to listen to all of yesterday. Yesterday we had a lot of conversation of different, and this was a bit of a hot topic yesterday, this same similar sort of vibe, and asking people who were the investors, what sort of investors? So what are you seeing? What are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, so I won't answer on behalf of the ETF. That's actually offered by a different part of Fidelity, but I'll answer kind of more broadly of my own opinion of
Yeah.
where we see, the digital asset ecosystem going and products like that driving us up. I think it's just the continued adoption and integration of digital assets into bigger portions of the economy. I think digital assets, there's a whole lot of use cases, but by now there's a few use cases, Bitcoin being a store of value, a bearer asset being one of those that are pretty well known by now. Other use cases are still a little further off. And as we've seen over the last, year, there is a desire from broad swaths of the economy to be part of this and participate in some way.
Yeah, I think that's it's interesting. We had a few different different responses yesterday to it. Actually, I think it very much depends on the lens that you're looking at. In that regard. Next question. Are you seeing demand for digital asset coverage outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum? If so, what ecosystems?
Yes, there is a large demand for everything. I think we do still see especially on the institutional side, Bitcoin has the known use case. Folks know what that is. It's been around for quite a while. There's a clear investment thesis there. I think when you get to other tail end assets, or sorry, not tail end, but the other assets, those are a little bit more venture capital-y. There's a lot of excitement, but everyone kind of is interested in those different assets for different reasons. So I think the continued theme of I like looking at crypto over the years of there was a while where there was just a new blockchain, a new layer one every single day, and then there was a new ERC20 token or meme coin every single day, and then there was a new NFT every day. Then it moved into a new layer two every day, and that kind of wave keeps going and cresting. I expect to see a little more consolidation, and that's what we're looking for, those triggers out there. Which one of these really take on versus just being a fad of the moment?
Yeah, yeah, it would be. That's the crystal ball we want, right? I wish. Oh, this one I don't know whether. Well, maybe you can answer it, or maybe you can't. I don't know. But what is the vision for the product roadmap in the next few years?
Our eyes are open, but there is a aggressive roadmap. So I think it's a combination of more of what we already do. I think we certainly continue to see ever increasing demand. So more products amongst our existing ecosystem. We certainly expect to see, more clients, higher balances, things we've already been seeing. But then there's some of those other far off use cases that are getting closer and closer day by day. So I think that's going to be a theme over the next months, if not years, of what are some of those use cases that everyone always talks about, that start to have some real mainstream impact on the overall economy. So tokenization and real world assets are a couple obvious ones that our eyes are on, more blockchains and layer twos, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's really interesting because I think that characteristic of speed, I would agree with as well. It's not just the fact that we're going to see more of. I think we're also going to see it keep coming it's quick. I think the roadmap, we're going to keep seeing it evolving at a pretty rapid pace, and going forward. And I don't know what. I'm going to ask my own question. I've got questions, but I'm going to be cheeky here. I guess that's the benefit of sitting where I'm sitting. But coming through that, I think there's going to be increased competition, right? That's what I can see on the market. You can see that there's going to be this sort of increase of competition, increase of ideas, a lot more products for people to choose from, and therefore staying ahead of the game is going to be quite important, I think. And so that's also going to contribute to this speed and rapid evolution requirement, I would say. Would you agree with that? Does that resonate with you? Or, I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I view competition as a good thing. Of the competition will potentially make the pie bigger for everyone, and also the more folks are in the space, the more powerful each of these use cases potentially get. So I think that's very much the vision of Fidelity Digital Assets. We've built these. I've said this a couple times on this call, I think, but we built those building blocks of those foundational, really, really hard things that you can't mess around with. So when it comes to security and hardware security modules and private keys, operational excellence, external audit reports, Big Four auditors, all that good stuff. That takes quite a while and a lot of investment to do and get yourself off the ground. But once you get that, we're ready to hopefully be pretty nimble about how we can apply those core competencies to new products.
Yeah. It's I think it's a really good point, because it can feel like a fast, slow thing, right? You've got to do it and you've got to move quickly, but you've also got to do it right. And that's the challenge, but also maybe the secret sauce as well. I mean, I would say, looking at the market, I don't know that everyone is capable of that, and so, but it has to be there. I think the other thing that's going to change is the maturity of consumers as well. I think the expectations and the way that some of these products get delivered, the look and feel of them, I think all of those things, there's going to be an expectation of simplicity, of ease, of speed, all of those things, very similar to what you see in other parts of the financial services industry. I think the same can be said in a lot of product groups. So here we go. Another question for you. Are the assets held in segregated wallets?
Generally, no. So we do not offer segregated wallets as one of our, primary product offerings. There's a couple of reasons for that. I think it really gets to the scale of how you operate as a digital asset custodian. And we believe strongly in controls and security that matter, not things that sound good. So things like making sure that we don't have honeypots of addresses that we can't move because our client thinks it's their own address, making sure we can adjust our risk exposure levels across our wallets. We make sure none of our wallets get too big, making sure we can rotate our private keys as a core cryptographic security principle. So this is one of those. Cryptography is not new. There's a lot of standards, things. We definitely read through, federal information processing standards, all that good stuff, how cryptography is done over the year. Make sure we apply those similar controls to being a digital asset custodian. But with that being said, and you kind of brought this up earlier, one of the things we do always hear from clients is our balance integrity. How do we make sure that the balances that we think we hold on behalf of our clients actually are there? Because there is no, big centralized bank that can go and give you a statement. This is all actually on the public blockchain. So,
it has to sort of be baked in almost. From a wallet perspective, what do we need from a tech perspective for the industry to mature? So when you're thinking about the wallets and the way wallets are working, what would be your ask of the tech industry to say, okay, these are the things that we need to think about fixing, guys?
Oh, that's an interesting question, because there's a lot there. So first off, I think it's interesting, and one of my favorite things about the digital asset ecosystem is it's choose your own adventure. Everyone can participate however they want to. So if there's either an advanced individual or advanced institution that wants to be their own custodian, they want to own their own private keys, they're certainly allowed to do that. And they don't need to use anyone else but their own. And they probably need, a more deep piece of technology, probably open source, that they can install and run on their own. You then get the institutional players like Fidelity Digital Assets, that our wallets are, of course, mostly proprietary, homegrown, and customized to our own, product model, where we love open source. We certainly take advantage of whatever's out there, but we're going to need to customize for ourselves and our clients. And then you get the investors that they want to participate in the investment portions of the ecosystem, and they want a company like Fidelity Digital Assets or another custodian or a product that they can purchase off the shelf that gives them the nice shiny UI and takes out the complexity. I do always worry, though, for those that are participating directly in DeFi, blockchain, things like that. I don't want it to look too easy for them, because it is still risky and advanced, and you should know what you're getting into.
Yeah, you've got to go in eyes wide open then, I think, for sure. Here's one. What do you think about ETH staking? With recent upgrades, do you see more traction around it? What is FDA's approach to it?
Yep, no, great question. So staking is something we are looking very, very closely into. At its core, it's a way to both earn a yield on your otherwise static asset, and it's a way to help secure the ecosystem, make sure that the blockchains remain intact with integrity, decentralized, all that good stuff. With that, there's obviously risks of it. Of course, there's regulatory uncertainty on where it falls into. There is also potential, if something goes wrong in proof of stake, it could go very wrong. So those are the types of things we're both excited about, but also are looking into more.
Yeah. So fair to say, yeah, you're looking at it, still figuring it out, what it is. You touched on something there, because this was a big topic yesterday, the whole regulation piece of it. But I feel like it's got to be part of the conversation. If we're talking about what it takes to make a digital assets business robust, then what's going on in that space is intrinsically related to it, right? You guys seem to have made a lot of progress, right? So how do you view it? Are you 2 steps ahead? Do you sort of look at it and say, okay, this is where we're at? Are you trying to stay in step with it? How do you organize the team and the work around that evolving picture?
All of the above, and it's not easy, but that's what makes working in this place fun, right? So I think it's a combination of making sure that this is a new asset class, a new frontier. You can't just look at what others have done and directly copy. You need to push and innovate. You also need to make sure you do it at a pace that's safe and doesn't impose unnecessary risk, and having close partnerships with either the compliance community, the regulatory community, having those open conversations. And it's both a give and a take.
Yeah, exactly. But what I really love about it, and I've got to say this, Brian, and is that it's not an excuse not to do anything. Because sometimes it's put out there like, sorry, we're waiting for the regulators. It's the regulators that are holding us back. Well, actually, no, there's a whole raft of things you can be doing already. And so I think it's understanding where it is on the journey that's super important, and that requires actually that you've got to roll your sleeves up. So thank you so much for giving us your time today. I found it super interesting. I didn't doubt for a minute that actually the answer to the question, what it takes, is a lot of hard work. But thank you for that, and thank you for joining us. And it's been a pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you, Claire. It's been fun to chat. Thanks for the good questions. And if folks want to learn more, FidelityDigitalAssets.com is the best place. Product overviews, free research and education, and of course, there's a way to get in touch with us.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.